the biggest advice is talk to people. Don't be embarrassed about sharing and learning information. What often happens is people are embarrassed and they're scared and they're lonely, and so they hold back and they think, I got to figure it all out in my head. Like, people sit on an idea for 20 years in their head before they try to do something because they're scared. Talk to people, learn, reach out. Entrepreneurs are very happy to help because they've climbed the mountain, and when you climb to the mountain, you want to help people climb with, follow you, right?
In our season finale, we took a road trip down to Arkansas for an exclusive interview with the powerhouse founder of Right to Start. After exploring the city, we landed on Blake Street to sit down and have a chat with the one and only Victor Hwang.
Good to see you, man.
Thanks for making it.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to Arkansas.
Of course.
This is a beautiful space we got here. What are you doing in Arkansas?
Well, I'm here at the end of a road trip. I just drove here from Los Angeles. I hit Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, and now I'm here meeting with entrepreneurs and people who support entrepreneurs all along the way.
Sweet. Well, I'm glad I drove all the way down to Arkansas. This is my first time in Arkansas, so I'm excited for our conversation today. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Boom. All right. Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome to the Entrepreneur Show, a talk show that highlights up-and-coming local legends, founders, investors who dare to take a chance on their vision, even when odds stack against them. And today, we've come to the final episode of the season, and I want to go with a banger. That's why I drove all the way to Arkansas to interview, the man I'm about to bring on. He is an advocate for entrepreneurship across the United States. So, yeah. It's going to be a loaded episode. And as usual, don't forget, you got to subscribe, share, let people know this is the last episode that we have for the season. And watch out for season 2. But without further ado, you already know who it is. Your host, Hwang. And today, we're going to talk about everything all about advocating for entrepreneurship in different states in the country. So without further ado, please help me make welcome the one and only, the founder of Right to Start, Victor Hwang. How you doing?
Good, Zeke. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Of course, man. Thank you.
It's great to have you. How's your day going?
It's been going good. I just drove here from Los Angeles to Arkansas.
Wow.
So across the country.
How long a drive was that?
It's a long drive.
Yeah,
I've lost count of the miles, but I visited entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial advocates all along the way.
Wow.
Policy leaders. It's been an amazing trip.
Well, what would you? Because I know it's a road trip, but you should have a name. Is it a Right to Start trip? Right to Start trip.
It's a Right to Start road trip.
Road trip.
Yeah. The goal is to be on the ground.
Yes.
There's no replacement for being back in person again.
True.
We're coming out of the pandemic where people didn't see each other as much, and now when you get back out in the world, you see it. It's like different, right?
Yeah, you got to be invested in the community, and I'm glad you. I emailed you like, hey, where you at? Are you in Los Angeles? Like, no, I'm gonna be in Arkansas. I'm like, okay, that's closer to me. So I'm glad you were able to.
I drove here for this interview.
Wow, I drove here for this interview too. So I'm excited to have you on, man. This is I couldn't have a better person to close the season with than you, because this will tie everything we talked about the whole season together. But for those who are watching who don't know what Right to Start is, give them just a brief bio of what Right to Start, who you are, and what Right to Start is.
So I'm an entrepreneur who fights for other entrepreneurs,
Yes.
and so my parents started a business just to be able to afford to put me through college. So I know how personal it is. It's a deep issue that affects so many people. It helped starting a business, help their lives out, help my life, help my sister out, put us through college, but also help create jobs and for other people. And then I saw what happened in the state of Texas, in Austin, Texas, where entrepreneurship transformed an entire community. And so, but then I saw how hard it was for them. And I realized that the entrepreneurial journey it's not a level playing field for people. And so it really became my life's mission to fight for entrepreneurs and break down barriers for all of them. And so I've been an entrepreneur, I've been an investor, I've been involved in helping advise entrepreneurship at the city level, state level, and even country level. And then when I was moved to Kansas City to work for the Kauffman Foundation, where I ran the entrepreneurship department there. And when I was at the Kauffman Foundation, it dawned on me that there was a giant hole in American life, which was the voice of the entrepreneur was lost in our public life. That is, entrepreneurship is so powerful. We know it's the source of almost all jobs. We know it's where GDP comes from. We know you can raise incomes. You can make communities stronger. You can fight poverty. You can fight inequality. Entrepreneurship is all part of that. Yet it's not part of our civic debate. So Our political leaders don't talk about it. Our economic policy doesn't take it into account. Normal citizens don't even understand it. And so we've got to fight for that. And so right to start is about the basic right of entrepreneurship. We call it right to start, just like your right to speech or your right to worship.
Yes.
You've got a right to be entrepreneurial. You've got a right to equal access to pursue your dreams.
Exactly.
And so we fight for that. We break down barriers for everyone to be able to pursue that dream.
Yeah. You have a right to start an entrepreneurship. You have a right to be unemployed, because that's pretty much what it is. That's what I say. People ask me, I'm like, you know what? I'm an entrepreneur, and they don't really know what that means, because most times as an entrepreneur, you're trying to figure it out. So it's the opportunity. But I like what you said. Entrepreneurship is, it boosts GDP. Of all the good things you said about entrepreneurship, why do most cities and states not get that?
It's just not been part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Most cities and states, when they think about economic development, their definition of economic development is helping big companies expand or relocate. They don't think about how do you build your homegrown entrepreneurs from the bottom up.
Yes.
And it hasn't been part of the American debate for about half a century now. We're bringing that back again, which is that you cannot have long-term economic health in a community without strong entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's got to be a part of the public life.
True.
And it's just one of those things. Because entrepreneurs have no time and no money to speak up for themselves. And so things get done without taking them into account.
That's true.
And so we've got to change that again.
Yeah. And I mean, even from an immigrant perspective, entrepreneurship is not really an option being an international student, right? But it's like, if you look at the numbers, immigrants are 40% more likely to start a business, 40% plus likely to start a business than, Americans in the US. But it's like, when I came out of college, it's right to get in a job. No one is talking about entrepreneurship. I mean, that's kind of like, I'm doing research on what I can do to help with that. But with what you've seen so far in the different states, when Right to Start, was able to, get policies in place, what does that help do for the economy? What does that do for the states? Like, how does that even work?
Well, right now, what's happened is entrepreneurs are affected by so many aspects of our public life that people don't even see it anymore. It's like fish don't know they're in the water, and they don't know when the water is bad. And what's happened is the water's gotten bad. If you think about how hard it is now to be an entrepreneur, we've done polling that shows that 81% of entrepreneurs say that government favors big businesses over them. 69% of entrepreneurs say government doesn't care about them at all. And so you think about all the things that affect entrepreneurs, from the cost of starting a business. It's like almost $800 on average in the US to do that, just to get through the processes and the fees and the approvals and the paperwork, to healthcare issues. We subsidize healthcare for large corporations, but not for people starting a new business. Tax policy, red tape, education, workforce training, economic development, government contracting, on and on. There's so many things where the system favors the big companies and the older companies, not the new people trying to build something new.
What are some significant policies or some advocacies that Right to Start has done that maybe people don't realize is in place because you guys did it, that people don't actually think about?
Well, we've been working at state, the local level, and the federal level at all different aspects. So at the state level, for instance, we're only 3.5 years old as an organization.
Wow.
But this year we had 13 state legislatures introduce 35 bills based off of our ideas.
Wow.
And we actually passed all the way and got signed into law in Nevada. And in Nevada, it does something really simple but very powerful, which is it puts someone in charge of entrepreneurship in the state. It creates an Office of Entrepreneurship that's staffed and funded.
Wow.
And their job is to coordinate all policy across the entire governmental apparatus in Nevada about entrepreneurship.
Okay.
It also looks at opening up government contracts to make it easier for entrepreneurs, young business, to get them. It makes recommendations to cut red tape to make it easier to navigate all the bureaucracy.
Yes.
And then it also starts tracking the data on entrepreneurs, which is, most states have no idea how many businesses are starting and how well they're doing in a state. And Nevada is going to be a state that actually has that now written into law. That's something they have to do.
So are there other states that are doing it, or is Nevada like the first one?
Nevada's the first one to pass the whole law.
Wow.
But other states have been inspired by it.
Wow.
And so in New Mexico, the law actually passed, the bill passed the House and the Senate, did not make it through the governor's office, but then the governor's office decided to do it anyways. And they created their own Office of Entrepreneurship. And I just met with them on this road trip as well. So actually in Nevada, on my road trip, I passed through Nevada and met the Speaker of the Assembly, who helped champion the bill originally. And then I drove through New Mexico to meet the people running the economic development department that are creating this new office of entrepreneurship as well.
Wow.
And so this is happening now, and
yeah,
people are starting to do it.
What does this do for entrepreneurs in the cities or states where these offices are in? What does that do for them?
Well, it can do a number of things. One thing is it provides a central point when there's issues that pop up about what entrepreneurs are dealing with. There's someone in charge now.
Yeah.
Someone's responsibility is to remove those barriers to help make it easier to be an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
And those people, not only can they coordinate policy, but they could also be like a place to call, right, or contact. If you've got an issue, you now have a place to go to, and they can help you navigate that process.
Wow, okay,
and so that's the idea, is to build a central point of contact and advocacy within the government for this kind of thing.
Now, when it comes to Missouri and Kansas, I know that I don't think it exists. Does it exist, or am I not?
Not yet, but they've been talking a lot about it. And so both Missouri and Kansas, in fact, Missouri was the first state to sponsor a bill in their legislature for a Right to Start Act.
Okay.
But Kansas also sponsored a bill as well. They didn't pass all the way. They got very close.
Yeah.
In Missouri, it got very, very close. It actually passed the House and the Senate in different bills, but not together at the same time.
Gotcha. Okay.
But in Kansas, just a few weeks ago, the House the House Committee on Economic Development, actually a Commerce Committee, had a whole day hearing to talk about this issue, about how do they create an office for entrepreneurs within the state government.
Now let's shift gears a little bit, right? When it comes to, I think you mentioned Austin and how Austin has been booming when it comes to entrepreneurship. With a city like with a place like that, what makes it? What started that? Like, why is it so booming? What are the things that are making that happening over there?
Well, it's when I grew up in Austin in the 1980s. People in Austin didn't even know how special it was. They just really liked it. It was just a great place. And there was like a strong vibe where people were brave enough to try things out. And now, looking back now, I realize what that was, which was that deep entrepreneurial DNA within a community that over a few decades turned into something enormous. And so it takes time to build that. And so it was in the air. So between that creative culture, between, you had the university there, you had the government there, but then you also had the artistic community, you had the music community, then you had the technology industry, that all kind of combined together. And it became that kind of explosive magic in Austin. So that's, in the 80s was when South by Southwest was born. I remember when that got started.
Wow.
Whole Foods got started there.
Wow.
Dell Computers, which was the first custom build computer company in the world, started there. I remember when all this stuff was starting, and
about 40 plus years.
It's been a while. Yeah. It's been a little bit of time, but but it really, you can, that when it's in the air, you can tell. And when I moved to Kansas City reminds me a lot of what Austin was like back in the 80s. It's got that culture, it's got the people, it's got a lot of the raw assets. It just needs to turn up the volumes a tiny bit, like the work you're doing right now.
Yeah. What will turn up that volume though? That's kind of like, because I see Austin, as much as I would want to leave, because here's the truth. I'll be honest with you on this episode, because I've been doing this labor of work for a couple of years, trying to advocate for entrepreneurship, trying to speak entrepreneurship. But the truth is, and most times it's like pulling tooth, right? It's like you're trying to make this thing that should help the economy, should help the city, but it seems like they're not seeing what you're doing. And if Austin says, hey, Zeke, pull up, we need you over here, Zeke gonna go to Austin, and that's what happens to most of our entrepreneurs. Even though we have loyal people who are like myself, who love KC, but if there's better opportunities in other places, we will move to that. And when it comes to Kansas City, what do you think is, what's making that volume not go up? What's missing?
You need a few hundred Zekes. Like,
yeah.
you don't need 30,000 Zekes.
Yeah,
you need just a few hundred of you, and you need to be tight, and you need to be able to show that this works, and build a community around yourselves. And a few hundred people can affect a few thousand people, and a few thousand people can change the city. So that's how it works. You start with a few hundred people.
So the work Keystone is doing is very powerful in this move, because I feel like Keystone is that ecosystem, that hub, right, where you can name 10 entrepreneurs who are in the building consistently working on something.
Yes. Yeah, you need to have that tight community, because what happens is that becomes viral, right? Culture is viral. Like people learn from each other, and they see success and they see movement. People start to gravitate towards it, and it takes on a life of its own. And so Kansas City has had it in the past. I mean, you had such enormous, successful companies come out of Kansas City. Like people forget, like Hallmark at the time was a
Yes.
crazy innovation. The
Yes.
idea that you could take art and send that as like a gift to somebody,
Yes.
right? And you could mass produce that.
True.
That was an amazing concept at the time. And you look at the great companies that have been born over the years, from Sprint to Cerner to
Shot Tracker.
Shot Tracker to all the great civil engineering
Yes.
firms like J.E. Dunn.
Yes. Yes.
You know, the work that the sports architecture work like Populous and others. I mean,
yes.
Kansas City is one of the sports architecture centers of the entire world.
True. True.
All this amazing work happening in KC. It's just not tight, right? You need to kind of connect it together
Bring
and
it
create that
together at
nucleus.
once.
Yeah, create a nucleus around it.
Where does Zeke find the other 99 other Zekes though? Being not asking in the sense that you know where to find it, but in being in the ecosystem for so long in different cities, where can Zeke find other Zekes though? What do you think?
You mean in Kansas City or any city?
In Kansas City.
In Kansas City.
Yeah, from your perspective of seeing different cities that have built this, unity of 500, 100 entrepreneurs who make this happen.
There's always these people that connect, and they do things from host dinners to get people together for drinks,
Yes.
to hosting meetups, to forums, the stuff that happens at Keystone, times 100, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and
Screw that up.
but you got to start somewhere,
Exactly.
and you got to get those people going. But you have to create a place that people want to be in. That network, that community has to be a place that people want to be a part of.
Okay.
And so you have to provide value to them, like
Yeah.
share information, share knowledge, get connected to build great things.
Yeah. Let's talk about what's happening right now. So you are in Arkansas for what?
I'm here. This week is the Heartland Summit.
Okay.
It's a conference that's run by a group called Heartland Forward, which is created by the Walton Foundation.
Okay.
The Walton Foundation was founded by
Yes.
Sam Walmart and his
Sam Wal- yep,
legacy,
yep.
The founder of Walmart. The Heartland Summit is a conference. They've been running it now for several years. It got put on pause during COVID, but it's the preeminent conference on how do you build economic prosperity in the heartland in the middle of the country. And so
Wow.
they got celebrities coming in. Last year they had Pharrell and Jamie Dimon were here. Today they got Matthew McConaughey coming in here. But then they have people, not just celebrities, but people doing real work,
Yes.
talking about the work they're doing in their communities.
Okay. And the building we're at, it was so cool when you talked about, the things that are around. We have the art. What was the
There's an art museum here.
Art museum.
Yeah.
That's right
They're
next
called
to it.
Crystal Bridges.
Crystal Bridge. We can go and see, a bunch of art. And I'm glad that I actually took this trip to Arkansas just to see what's happening down here. Just because you can't be one place when it comes to entrepreneurship. Like you have to learn and see what's going on, right?
Totally do. This right now, I think our country, if you read like the national news, you hear stereotypes and you hear like it's like a false narrative.
Yeah.
You get on the ground and you see things totally differently. Like you come to Bentonville and you see what's happening in Arkansas, and it doesn't look at all like what you think Arkansas is.
Exactly.
My entire trip has been like this across the country, and I did a cross country trip last year as well.
Wow.
This country is not what the media, the national media says it is. In fact, I'd say our national media and our national leaders are not living up to the people right now. The people at the cities, in the communities, are doing real work, and there's an optimism and an energy that doesn't fit. It's very jarring, the contrast between the good work happening locally and like the dysfunction at the national media. It's not the same. This country is fixing itself.
Yeah. And then I think we talked about GW, Global Entrepreneurship Week. Are you a part of that or in any way, shape, or form?
Global Entrepreneurship Week, I've been part of it for a lot of years now. That's next week. I guess when this episode's going to air.
It's going to be the week of
this episode coming out. I am keynoting a conference in North Carolina, which is North Carolina's big entrepreneurship conference called NC IDEA. That was founded by the former vice president of entrepreneurship at the Kauffman Foundation before me, Tom Rue.
Wow.
And he's got a conference in North Carolina. He invited me to keynote that. And so we're going to be doing this work. We're advocating, we had a bill introduced in North Carolina as well. We're going to be talking with those people to try to advocate and drive entrepreneurial work in North Carolina again.
So for those who don't know what GW, Global Entrepreneurship Week is, or what it does, can you give us more insights, being that you've been part of it for a long time?
Well, it's a global celebration of entrepreneurship. There are hundreds of sites, maybe thousands, but at least hundreds of sites across the world running events and activities celebrating entrepreneurship, educating people, sharing information, getting them excited about entrepreneurship. And Kansas City is one of the leading hubs. In
Yes.
fact, Kansas City is where the whole thing was born out of because of the
Yes.
Kauffman Foundation.
Yeah. Yes.
Global Entrepreneurship Week, very exciting. KC is a huge hub for that.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
it's a great chance to celebrate entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be part of that. I'm actually speaking that week as well. I'm presenting about storytelling as a solution, basically what we're doing right now, which is basically saying that if we don't advocate for entrepreneurs, if we don't talk about how KC is like a cool place to come to entrepreneurship, no one will come because they don't know, they've not heard about it, right? We hear about Chief, we hear about barbecue, but why don't we have ourselves entrepreneurs? So that's basically the whole concept, like talking about entrepreneurship, making it cool, making people to be able to learn more about it, right? So yeah, it's all a good atmosphere for entrepreneurs to come and excel.
Yeah.
Now let me ask this from the immigrant perspective, as an immigrant who pretty much jumped from college to entrepreneurship, which was not the best. I wouldn't advise anyone to do that. That's really not a good move to do. But it worked out for me. Is there some things you guys are thinking about when it comes to immigrants going into entrepreneurship, having that option as opposed to going to the employment route?
Entrepreneurship. My parents were immigrants as well. They
Yeah,
came to
yeah.
this country with $300 and 2 bags of laundry. So
Wow.
they lived the American dream.
Yeah. Wow.
When my mother was pregnant with me, she was filling soda machine cans that she got like at a laundromat. That was like her
Wow.
extra income. So
Damn.
the immigrant dream, my
Yes,
family knows
yes,
that.
yes.
And I was born out of that. But it's really critical because it provides optionality, right? Right now, we've got an economy that says you have to work for someone else. And that works for a lot of people, and it's good for the country to have
Yes,
good jobs
exactly.
like that. But people need the option of being able to create their own thing.
True.
Because what's also true in life, and the economy shows this more and more, is people bounce back and forth. You bounce from working for someone to having your own thing,
Yes.
and you learn different skills and you learn different networks along the way,
Yes.
and you get better. And having that optionality is key. If your only option in an economy is to work for someone else, you're actually not free. Right? We've actually created a system that makes people bound to someone else to do stuff for them, as opposed to having the power to do it yourself. And so that's all entrepreneurship is. We're not saying everyone has to do it, but 62% of Americans actually want to start a business someday. It's actually like a deep American thing. It's that people are scared, they don't know how to do it, they don't know the right people, the system makes it hard, they don't have the money, it's too expensive. All these things get in the way. And a lot of them are things we can fix.
And I mean, I've seen hybrid versions of entrepreneurship where people have a job, but also have a side project they're working on. Like you said, I've seen people who go in and out. They work at a job, they start a business, they learn skills, and then when they go back to the workforce, they have a higher position because now they have more value to bring to the marketplace.
100%. That's exactly the way it works. You build skills by stretching yourself, and especially Gen Z now. Side hustles are a very common thing with Gen Z, right? People they think like, I got my main gig and I got side gigs.
Yes.
And the thing is, those side hustles, my parents' business started as a side hustle and became like a big thing for them. And you can do that. Like that way of thinking is allowed. And what that means is entrepreneurship is no longer treated as like a weird thing. It's actually normal. It should feel like a very natural. It's like breathing, right?
Exactly.
Like the idea that you take what you know how to do and you make something valuable and you resell it should be a very natural thing. It should feel as easy to do as anything else. But we've turned it into something so weird and hard. And so what Right to Start is focused on is making it a natural thing again.
I'm with that. I am with that because I feel like that's my whole goal too with what I do, with the episodes that I do, the shows that I do, is saying it is not that hard. Let's make it easier. Let's make it cooler. Let's make people be excited about entrepreneurship, even if it's part-time. You don't have to jump in full on. Learn step by step. And I'm happy that Right to Start is advocating for that, and also having offices in the cities where people can go ask questions of how to start. Where can I get funding? Stuff like that are so important, so key. Until you're in it, you don't know how valuable it is. And what I always say is, if we can make it easier, some entrepreneurs have to go 10, 20 years before they understand what funding is or how to get funded. But what if we can start it like the first year you get into business, you already get funded because there's Right to Start who's already has an office for entrepreneurship in the city where you can go to and get what you need, right?
Yeah. It should be natural where if someone's got a great idea that can be valuable to society and the community, they should have the means to bring that idea to life. Like, we shouldn't hold it back. That's a loss to all of us. Like when someone with talent has an idea and they can't bring it to life and give it a fair chance to succeed in the market, we're the losers for it because we never get to see that thing. That person never gets the income, the community, the whole community is less for it. So that's what we're trying to do.
As we're coming to it, because we're trying to make this a quick episode, but I want to ask you this. what is some, from your experience, what is some advice you would give to maybe a young entrepreneur or someone out there who's trying to get into the game that, you know, doesn't know a lot, or someone who's actually been in the entrepreneurship ecosystem and dropped out because it was too hard or something? What are some advice you've gotten that you can pass along?
The biggest advice is, and honestly, you could spend, it takes years to learn how to entrepreneur, and I'm still learning constantly.
True.
But the biggest thing is talk to people. Don't be embarrassed about sharing and learning information. What often happens is people are embarrassed.
Yeah.
And they're scared,
yeah,
and they're lonely, and so they hold back, and they think, I got to figure it all out in my head. Like, people sit on an idea for 20 years in their head before they try to do something because they're scared. Talk to people, learn, reach out. Entrepreneurs are very happy to help because they've climbed the mountain, and when you climb to the mountain, you want to help people climb with, follow you, right?
Yeah.
And so I give advice and help all the time to entrepreneurs because I've been there myself, and on my way, I've learned from so many people who've given me help as well.
Yeah.
And you'll find, like when Steve Jobs reached out to Bill Hewlett of Hewlett Packard back in the early days of he was like 14 years old, I think the story is.
Yes.
And he got help. He got mentoring.
Yep.
You'd be amazed at how many great entrepreneurs are willing to give you help because they've been there, they hear your message, and they're sympathetic, and they want to support it as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Victor, again, for being able to come on the show. I really appreciate the time, being able to invite us out here in Arkansas. I'm going to make this joke. It's spelled Arkansas, but we call it Arkansas. I don't know why.
But the people here are called Arkansans. That makes no sense
whatsoever. Makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense whatsoever. But we're in Arkansas. But thank you, Victor, for inviting us.
Thank you, Zeke. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you for what you're doing because you are taking it national. And before we go, if people want to reach out to you for any questions or what you're working on, how can they get in contact with you?
Righttostart.org is the website, and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. And I'd ask people to do one thing, to take 15 seconds and sign our statement of principles. We're doing a call to action. We're collecting 10,000 signatures, and next year, I'm going to print those signatures out, and I'm going to drive from LA to DC and give it to the White House and to Congress.
Wow, okay.
To declare that entrepreneurship rights are important to everybody.
Wow. You love road trips, huh?
Yeah, this country is beautiful, and the people are amazing in this country. I really do love road trips. So righttostart.org/statement.
And we'll put a link too for the sign up you want them to do.
Yeah,
we'll put a link in there too.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeke,
for being on this episode. For those who are watching from home, you know what time it is. Subscribe, share. We're about to wrap up. Your host Zeke Hwang, and this is our last episode for the season. Thank you, Victor, for being on the show. Thank you guys for watching this season, and look out for season 2. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye-bye for now.
To see how our city's entrepreneurs do what they do, tune in to City Entrepreneur on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Episodes drop every Thursday.